Hello, you gorgeous and sexy people, and welcome to another episode of Tangential Recreation here on the Geek Planet Online YouTube channel. I'm Matt Dillon. Joining me, as ever, is Mr. Richard Cobbett.
Hi, folks.
A man who, if he was a Moomin, be known as Snark Maiden.
Terrifying idea. I always used to be really scared of the Moomins. Not sure why.
Everyone's scared of the Moomins because they are indeed monstrous. The less said about the soup dragon in the clangers, the better, I think. Anywho, yes, this is in fact Tangential Recreation. This is the show that positively promotes rambling. And here's how it works. We have 60 minutes on the clock. We have a starting subject, which is the ending subject of the last cast. And we start the timer when I say the name of the... See, Dave Probert was always so much better at this on the podcast. Yes, we'll start the timer as soon as I say the ending subject. And we just let the conversation ramble. Knowing Rich and I, it will be mostly gaming related, but not exclusively. And when the buzzer goes off, that's it. Cut-off point, that's where we finish for another week. And of course, being a gaming channel, whilst we're doing this, we're playing a co-op game. And the man bouncing around on your screens right now is Mr. Cobbett. I'm the Green Ranger, he is the Blue Ranger, and this is not actually Power Rangers, this is Castle Crashers.
It's very similar.
Because we were going to play Spelunky multiplayer, but it turns out it's only got local couch co-op, which a year ago I was bitching about the lack of. So, there we go. So,
what are you going to spend your other 2 wishes on the monkey paw with?
Scarlett Johansson. And Scarlett Johansson again, just to make sure, I think. Okay, so let's get the timer started. So our starting subject, the one we ended, actually thanks to a little bit of overtime last night, was old games that you can't quite remember. This may backfire. Do you have any, Mr. Cobbett?
I kind of tend to be on the other side. It's people asking me to remember old games for them.
Oh, what, like I did?
Yes, and I was right. I was very pleased by that.
You were indeed.
No, I mean, it kind of tends to be after doing crapshoot for PC games for several years. I've a lot of the games I sort of half remembered, I've sort of found since then. And, looked up, It's usually a very vague memory, which you can kind of try and sort of do detective work over. Tends to be harder when it's something which is just based on a demo or something really obscure. There was one in particular called Wrecked, which as soon as I started doing crapshoot, I knew I wanted to get in there, but I couldn't actually find any convincing proof that the game actually existed. And what it was an educational game about the dangers of drugs. And okay, that's not entirely original, except the way they decided to do it was as a platform game. And worse, a platform game where you take drugs and they're your power-ups. And the gimmick is that at the end of the level, it basically tells you how much trouble you'd be in if you were caught with the stash that you just used to make it through the level. And so this was an actual game that's real, like I said, Wrecked, a psychedelic adventure, but I hadn't been able to find any mention of it for many, many years. And then just randomly found a copy just on a really obscure shareware collection which hadn't been updated for about 20 years. So there was that one. There was also another one which I knew existed but had never actually played and really wanted to, just because it was called, and I quote, Bert Higgins, the Man from Hell.
Did you find it?
I did find it. It's basically a top-down cop game. It's basically RoboCop, except that instead of calling him RoboCop, they call him Bert Higgins.
Sorry, that's just the best description of anything I've ever heard, Edda. It's basically like RoboCop, but instead of calling him RoboCop, they call him Bert Higgins.
Yeah, and that is the game. Bert Higgins, the man from Hell.
Buy my things.
Do we need to buy his things?
I don't know how.
Yeah, Oh, you walk up to things on the wall.
Ah, okay.
I have insufficient gold.
I could buy a potion.
I'm going to take my chances.
Oh, apparently I did get a potion. So how do I... Oh, I have to... Oh, it's the bumpers, not the triggers. You said triggers.
Oh, did I? Oh, it's the bumpers. The triggers are for magic. You hold it down and then press Y.
God damn you, Cobbett.
So what about you? Anything which you were looking for?
Well, beyond... I mean, that was the one that kind of bugged me for the longest time. There was an arcade game that bugged me forever and ever and ever, because it was in the local play centre when I was a kid. And I remember I was never any good at it, and I'd rather have spent the money I was given on sweets, not an arcade. Although, I have mentioned this on the One More Go podcast, and I don't know if I've mentioned it on this show as well, probably, but that was one of the times I remember one of the kids, the older kids, finding the how to put it into free play mode. So it was a sort of race in the morning to see if you could get on before the staff realised that somebody had done it yet again, and changed it back. But it was a scrolling beat 'em up with what at the time seemed to be really, really cool advanced graphics, but in retrospect were a kind of
I see.
You've picked up maybe a hidden weapon or something. Oh, I want it. Oi! Stop nicking all the weapons, you bastard.
So scrolling beat,
that? I think that was the better one that I had in the first place. My spunky stick.
So fancy scrolling beats 'em up.
Yes, it was a fancy scrolling beat 'em up that was loosely, as far as I could remember, based on Greek or Roman mythology.
Oh, cool.
And what I remembered most about it was the final boss. So there was like a boss at the end of every level, but I didn't remember any of them. What I remembered mostly was this final boss, who was a guy in gold armour, like solid gold armour, you know, sparkling and all that. But as you took damage, the armour cracked off, revealing an animated skeleton underneath.
Oh, cool.
And then you had to kill the skeleton. And it bugged me for years, and it never even occurred to me to go looking for it on MAME. But I suppose I didn't know what it was called or anything, so I just sort of did... at the end of last year, it suddenly occurred to me, maybe I could find out, you know, with this whole internet thing. So I did a Google, and now I'm put on the spot, I can't remember the name of the damn thing. But it turned out to be a really terrible game. I found the ROM and I played it. It turned out to be an absolutely appallingly awful beat-em-up. So it was a forcible scrolling beat-em-up. Big, huge, chunky sprites, and you'd normally get one enemy at a time. So your character would be forcibly advanced down a corridor. And that was probably unwise, Matt. So yes, you would be forcibly marched down a corridor, and enemies would come at you. Oh, I got a bow and arrow. Well, you get... That doesn't seem to hurt the... Oh, that does take damage. Okay, the round thing does take damage. And, yeah, and you basically have to... You either get obstacles, like an arrow will come flying at you, or a rock, or whatever, and this is like routine, there's a pattern to it, and you have to press the attack button at the right time. Or you get an actual fully fledged human in armour that you have to fight. The whole cracking armour off thing actually occurred, but as it turns out, it only happens if you've got the dip switches in one of the harder difficulty settings. Otherwise, you just kill the... When you you don't crack the armour as you kill them, they just basically have one health bar and they're dead. But it was quite controversial. It got released in a censored version, because the female characters, it was all like gladiatorial, and the female characters, they were naked and had boobs on display when you cracked off their armour.
Clearly this had to be banned for the sake of the children.
Absolutely. Dear God, won't somebody please think of the children? And, yeah, the boss I remembered, again, it was only a 3-stage boss, with you fighting the skeleton. Well, you fought the armour, you fought the skeleton, and then you had to fight its flying head. And yeah, that was only on the harder modes, as I found out. But it was a true... And it had a couple of different names. I'll see if I can... I'll remind myself what it's called.
Stick it into the
and
comments.
Stick it in the show notes, yeah. See if anybody else on the emulation side of things would like to give it a go. But it was fucking appalling, and I was really crushedly disappointed.
It's often like that, though, when you kind of remember a game fondly and then it sort of turns out, oh.
Well, I don't even remember playing it fondly. What I remember is fondly watching older kids play it.
But it was
like I say,
but it was often like that with the weirdest games. When I remember when in the early 90s, people were actually excited about Altered Beast, the dullest beat 'em up ever to get that much attention.
Yeah, Altered Beast was a funny one, and it's still hailed as a Mega Drive classic, the home port, and it's a pile of shit.
I mean, the port's not horrible, but I mean,
it's a fairly accurate port.
That's the problem. I mean, the game itself was just. It was a bit like kind of Sega's problem back in the day, in that until they got Sonic the Hedgehog, they just didn't have a good thing. And certainly in the UK, because it was like on the Master System. Oh wow, it comes pre-installed with Alex Kidd.
It's
like any game which sort of relies on rock, scissors, paper probably ain't gonna be a classic for the ages. And then of course with the Mega Drive, it's like kind of convince yourself you actually like Altered Beast for more than 5 minutes. I mean, Altered Beast is the only game I can think of where you can have about as good an experience with the wristwatch version. And I know that because I own the wristwatch version.
That's just sad.
Yeah, I was given it as a birthday present once.
Yeah. I had, I'm sure I had one of those. Not Altered Beast, but something else. Good old Tiger. I'm sure I had like a Nintendo one, like Mario's Bomb Factory or something.
Concrete Factory.
For Concrete Factory, yeah, that's the one.
Just as a premise for a game, that's just so non-Nintendo. It's like,
isn't it?
It's like Donut World and Yoshi's Island and Concrete Factory.
So yeah, I mean, apart from that arcade game, most things I just kind of remembered. But there have been a few games that we were talking our last episode about. The old PC Gamer cover discs or similar, and PC Zone used to do a fairly good one. And you just sort of, as a kid, you'd sort of scour through it and play every last frickin' demo on it and what have you. And I remember in the floppy disk days, and I remember this because I'm fairly certain it had something to do with either id Software or one of the guys involved with Doom. So there was a game called Abuse.
Oh yeah. Is it something.com, fear.com or something like that?
Fear.com?
It was something like that. It wasn't that, but it was like crack.com, or it was something.com, I'm sure.
Yeah, something like that. I remember it, as I say, I remember it because I remember it for a couple of reasons, but I remember the cover disc because it proudly proclaimed, like I say, from the makers of Doom or Quake or something, has something in common, the development team. Ah! He's a big fella. Oh, I've got to do the old-fashioned...
joystick waggle.
Yeah, the old-fashioned arcade-style joystick waggle. Have it!
No, I remember Abuse being kind of one of those kind of... I don't know how well it actually sold in the end, but to me it was also like kind of one of the great shareware failures.
Yes,
because you played the shareware version. It's like kind of, that was great. I've now played all I need to of this. It's the same with Descent. It was like kind of the shareware version was something like 7 levels. And you played it, so that was really satisfying. And then you kind of, when they announced sort of, okay, we've got Descent 2, and this time we've learned we're only going to give you a 3-level demo. It was sort of very quickly kind of, oh, okay, so this is now the same game that I didn't want to give you 40 quid for a couple of years ago. I'm hammering this button. He's not getting up.
Do I have? Ow! That's. Oh, have we failed?
I keep on getting distracted by the conversation.
There's irony. You've not used all your skin points. You sure you want to continue? No. Oh, I get. Oh, okay. So hang on.
I don't seem to be able to do it.
It's like levelling up. Let's. Right. I haven't used magic yet. Let's put some more into. Split that between strength and defence, I think. There we go.
That's right.
And then it's your go. Yeah, so I remember it because of that, and I remember being quite impressed with the control system because it was the first time I'd ever played a game that I'd obviously playing plenty of platforming style games with keyboard controls on the PC at that point, Jazz Jackrabbit, for example, Commander Keen, that sort of stuff. So it certainly had that that kind of control system for movement, but you actually fired your weapon had 360 degree control and was controlled with the mouse. And I remember being really impressed with how that worked.
Yeah, I mean,
I found a flaw in the game. This one. Yeah, which is that it's all very well telling me to waggle the joystick, but if the enemy is in front of my character, I can't see the prompt. So I have to guess that that's what I'm supposed to do.
Well, there was another game before Abuse called Firelox or something, which I don't think did the same thing, but kind of it immediately reminded me of it. I remember that one quite fondly because my dad had a laptop from work which I was occasionally allowed to install games on, as long as I got rid of them all by Monday morning. And
that was cool.
Yeah, and the only problem was, in this case, I accidentally installed into the root directory of the C drive, which sort of led to kind of the, oh crap, how do I delete only the relevant files? Crap.
Yeah.
It had sort of the same kind of, I don't even know if it was the same actually overall, but when I was playing Abuse, it was like, kind of, this reminds me of this other game, and...
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with you in that Abuse, it was, it was kind of nice and spooky. There were some bits that you wouldn't have recognised at the time, but that blatantly ripped off the xenomorph from Aliens.
I think it was fairly clear what it was ripping off even at the time.
Well, I mean, I know that you haven't to this day seen the movies.
Oh, I know what the alien looks like,
So, well, I didn't want to assume, but anyway, yeah. But the reason it was most memorable is I installed this on my own PC. And a friend of mine actually had a more powerful PC than me, so he actually had a CD-ROM drive, he had a sound blaster, whereas I had to rely on the PC speaker for the longest time. Which, by the way, I actually think the bleep-tuned soundtrack to Monkey Island is better than the synth soundtrack.
My God, you're insane.
Well, maybe it's just nostalgic memories.
I think that one's nostalgia. Certainly the Monkey Island 2 theme was nowhere near as good.
I had when I did eventually get a bass graphic sound card, rather, it was a very basic one.
My first one was the Sound Blaster 2, and it was wonderful to kind of plug in for the first time. It's like, this is the point where basically nothing had PC speaker support anymore at all. So it was like going from complete silence to full talkies.
Oh, I know. Like, oh, hello.
Now that's a big chest.
Fanar.
Oh, he beats it open.
Make it rain!
I'm going to bet this is still only enough to buy like half of a rusty sword.
Is that a euphemism? Fuck off, Comet, mine!
Ha!
Oh, we've got to...
presumably save the damsel.
Oh, now we have to fight each other to see who gets laid.
Oh, that was useless magic.
Uh-oh, uh-oh. Oh, Comet, you're going down.
That's what she said.
Distracting me with laughter, especially puerile laughter.
Looking at my health bar, it's not going to help much.
Can I pick you up and lob you?
No.
Milady? Tipping intensifies.
I think for me, what mostly sort of stands out isn't necessarily the games, but a lot of the cartoons that were out at the time. I'm just sort of thinking back and being, there was actually a cartoon based on the Toxic Avenger.
Yes, there was.
That shouldn't have happened.
The Toxic Crusaders.
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
And just all of the other ones, Police Academy, okay, fine. By the end, it was kind of getting, you may as well. But just some of the other ones, it's just like you cannot be making like a Rambo cartoon or a.
But they did.
What was the other really dodgy one of the
RoboCop?
RoboCop I thought was okay, but not the cartoon. Obviously, the cartoon was terrible. But at least the character, you kind of got what it was. But
right, are we going up or right?
I don't know. Which do you feel like?
The only way is up.
Oh, okay, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you remember the really terrible Aliens action figures?
I remember things like when they had, like, cyborgs and...
Yoshi!
Now this is getting a really golden axe.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Oh, I love it. Right. Oh, hello. Upgrade to me bow. Fan-smegging-tastic. Smeg off, dog food face. Yeah, so to finish what I was saying about abuse, the other reason I remember it is, like I say, I played it on my PC, and then I was going to take it round to my mate's house, but I didn't have... And what I found was... This is sort of the early days of me poking about with files to see what made games tick. This is when the first time I found out that all of the sound files were just standard WAVs. Which means I could replace them. So, because this friend of mine at the time was the only person I knew with a sound card, I had to go ask him if we could do it around his place. And his parents were sort of rather religious and strict, so we had to wait until they were out, because he wasn't really supposed to play games of that nature. Although he did all the time. I later found out, it's not somebody I carried on speaking to, I later found out, because I actually did become friends with his older sister. But I actually found out through his sister and my mother that... I never thought his mother liked me, and it turns out he used to tell her, anytime he was caught doing something dodgy, he used to tell her it was my idea, that I'd told him to do it. Which was a lie. And his mum used to come round, I didn't know this either, because my mother would deal with it, but his mum used to come round all the time to say, look, your son's a really lovely boy, but if he could just,
maybe
we really can't...
off the Satanism?
Well, it was more, can we leave off the violent video games and things and blah, blah, blah. And, I had no idea of any of this. Only found this out as an adult. I'm like, well, no wonder I felt a bit dodgy when she was around. I will stress that I have subsequently had many conversations with his mother as an adult, and she's a lovely woman. That was just lied to by her ratbag son. But never mind. But anyway, so we went round to his place to do the editing, and we had a gloriously childish Saturday afternoon while his parents were out shopping. Editing all the WAV files so that every time a monster appeared, he'd say something like, bumholes, instead of rawr.
I remember Civilization being great for that, because all of the text was just, freely accessible.
Yeah.
Kind of changing it from we love the King Day to, no, I think I can come up with something better.
And, yes, you did.
Your civilization has just invented anal. Speaking of.
So has that... Yeah. Hello.
Talk to this thing. I'm going to say that wasn't exactly the proudest moment in a knight's career. Beating up a diuretic owl. And
I personally ran away from the shitting owl of Badon Hill. Yeah, speaking of anuses, these guys' hoods look like puckered anuses, don't they?
Very much so. But you ever do the same thing in Doom? Kind of editing all of that stuff?
Not in Doom, but in Quake. In our last episode, I started talking about how we snuck Quake onto the servers at college, and I never finished that story. I mean, there isn't much more to it, but the basic story is we did programming. We were being taught Visual Basic, and I'd already taught myself Visual Basic, which is a ridiculously easy programming language to learn, as programming languages go, by the time I left secondary school. So, it's like, your first term project is to program a calculator. Ooh. Right, so 10 minutes into our first lesson, I've done that. How am I going to spend the rest of my time?
I'm pressing Y, nothing is happening.
So, because my... not just through... not through design, but... Do I have to help or something? Oh, it's me! I was supposed to resuscitate you. Right, hold on.
Okay.
Feck off!
It's not very clear about who's meant to be doing what, is it?
Is it fuck? Die of the bad aids. Or, my arrows.
What's the good aids? Gift aid?
Yeah, let's go with yes. Oh well, time to level up, I guess.
This is an amazing run, I'm just going to say this.
Yeah. So yeah, because just by through happenstance rather than design, my friends and I all had desks facing away from the tutor. We snuck Quake in on CD because one of the machines in the network had a CD drive. So, and there was no security. I mean, the security at my college, the IT security, was laughable. But then we're talking about a college who, after we paid, because it was all paid courses, of course. It's shitty owl. After we'd all paid for our course, they told us that a particular module that was supposed to be one full lesson a week couldn't be taught because they didn't have anyone to teach it, and they were working on hiring somebody. They didn't hire anybody until the second term. When they did, they hired a guy who turned out to be literally insane. As in, he ended up being committed. And while he was there, he'd obviously faked his CV because he had no qualifications. He came in and he lasted, I think, 2.5 lessons. His first lesson, he came in and said, "I'm supposed to teach you networking, so we're going to the library to look at the fire alarms."
Okay.
Yeah, we're like, okay. Are they controlled by computer network? No.
Are you sure he didn't misread it as not working?
Absolutely. So anyway, yes, it was very lacklusterly run, and I'm still kind of a little embittered about the money that got spent on a course that turned out to be pretty useless. But yeah, so we would. Oh, hello. Can I sit on you, or murder you in your slip, or get shit on?
A theme develops in this game. I'm just saying.
I'm beginning to wonder that myself. Oh, little dragony thing.
There's about as much poo at this point as in the Binding of Isaac.
Yes, it's a shame I don't have the Rebirth version of that on Steam, because we can play that co-op as well.
Although I think only one player gets a proper character, the other just more of a support character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think one player is actually Isaac, and the other one is the baby or something else that kind of flies around and has like a piddly little extra shot.
But you're basically Tails from Sonic 2.
Oh, no, you make Tails look like a badass.
Crikey. Yeah, so we played Quake, and getting back to your question, once we got Quake, so we networked up the CD drive so everyone could access it and install. And we... oh, I was looking at the wrong character. No wonder I'm not actually killing anything.
Well, if you're looking at the wrong character, I was just whooping that guy.
Oh, let's have a look at this weapon.
Strength
minus 1.
I seem to have a branch.
Don't know what that's supposed to be, a cricket bat or something, a baseball bat or something. Yeah, so I would edit the text files in that, so it would say unfortunate things when somebody died. Because the messages you got on death, like, you got fragged by this, you ate this boomstick, or what have you, you could edit. Oi! Bastard. So, yes, it became a question of, oh, you just ate his willy, or something. I don't know, I was 17, what do you expect?
The hilarious joy of youth.
Hilarious joy of being a child and finding willies amusing. Not that I'd ever do such a thing now. Willies.
Speaking of complete cock-ups, I'm still very annoyed about Arkham Knight.
Yes, I thought you would be.
So last week was sort of saying, I'm really looking forward to Arkham Knight, it's going to be brilliant, and I stand by that, and I look forward to it being true in about 2 years when they finally fix it. So far, not everyone's having problems with it, in fairness, but I can't get past the title screen. And it's a very pretty title screen, but it's not quite the finale Batman experience that I was looking forward to.
Is this racist?
I don't know.
I can't tell.
It sort of depends on what they are, I guess.
Well, yes.
But then if it is racist, you can't really complain about it, because people say you're just white knighting, even though you're clearly green.
Nice.
Thank you.
Well, yes, there's a bona fide white knight that apparently is only a feminist because I'll never touch boobs, according to some people on Twitter.
You see, I remember, white knights generally being quite popular in fairy tales. For, I don't know, doing stuff like defeating douchebags. It just seemed to be a general theme. I don't remember that, any story, where the white knight sort of saves someone and their response is, oh, you clearly have an ulterior motive. Even though in many of the fairy stories they did.
I was going to say, yeah. Uh-oh, something big's coming. Oh.
Or at least that guy. No, Sleeping Beauty.
Save me, Bambi!
Sleeping Beauty, I think, being probably the worst for that. Ooh, that's a big
yeah. Oh, hello. Oh, boss time!
Flee! Flee!
Oh no, it's not attacking things, it's fleeing. And I am actually riding Bambi.
If this turns into the turbo tunnel from Battletoads, I'm leaving.
On the other hand, if it turns into Neon Knight Riders from Turtles in Time, I'm down for that. No! This is no longer a collectible!
I never actually played Turtles in Time. I played the first one, which goes back to that free play thing that you had earlier on.
Yeah.
There was an arcade which Turtles 1 was set to free play, and the people around the arcade just didn't know how to change it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so it was just on free play mode forever. And basically they would complain if people sort of stuck around taking advantage of it, where they didn't know how to reset it to go and flick the dip switches.
Well, surely you just turn it off then?
No, it was just defaulted to that for some reason.
No, what I mean is, if you didn't know how to change it out...
Well, things they didn't know anything, so, you know, there was no, surely you just... Yeah, they just had it in free play forever. And it wasn't...
Yeah, but then you said they got pissy with you if you actually used the free play.
Oh, yeah, they tell you to get off the machine, but they wouldn't actually change it.
Which is just idiotic. Just switch it off. You know, if you're not making any money from it anyway...
Well, they didn't want to leave the machine off, because then it
You seem to have died.
It looked like it was broken, yeah. But at the same time, they didn't want to have people actually using the free play. They didn't know how to switch off, so they left it on and kind of hoped that people would get bored and go over to The Simpsons, which was, of course, like £1 a go, you know, full fat, you know, definitely pay to play.
But kind of worth it, actually.
Oh, totally worth it. Simpsons arcade game was awesome. I think we mentioned that in another video.
Yes,
in another video, not last week.
No, I think we mentioned that in other secret recordings.
Secret recordings. No, the fantastic Simpsons arcade game where nothing made any sense, but it was just awesome enough.
I'm not entirely sure how I'm meant to be fighting things. Oh, I've got to jump on a piece of debris.
Beat up this puffer fish before it knocks you off. So here's the thing, the dope fish. I haven't seen the dope fish in too long.
The dope fish?
Do you know the dope fish? It was a monster in Commander Keen 4, Goodbye Galaxy, the first half of it, Secret of the Oracle. Basically, there's one level where you go into...
I was trying to kill a shark that turned out to be something I could surf on.
Well, there's a bit where you go into a well, and there's basically this enemy called the dope fish. It's like this giant green fish with buck teeth. And if you get too close to it, it just sort of swims around, you know, stupidly. But if you get too close to it, then it eats you in one go. And it became something of like a gaming mascot for a while. And a bit like kind of people now put, well, not so much now, but a couple of years ago, we're putting like cake is a lie and sort of stuff like that into games.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be the dope fish. That people would sneak in references in all kinds of games. So there's like one in Quake, kind of hidden in a secret area.
Dope fish. That rings a bell now.
It's a big green fish with buck teeth. You would know it if you saw it.
I bet I would at that.
But there was a whole website called Dope Fish Lives, which just sort of charts like the appearances of this thing. This is sort of back in the time when people could put in bits from other people's games.
Help!
Not immediately get sued.
Yeah. Oh well. That was something. I should probably name my little dragon.
No,
Come, Mr. Buggernuts.
No,
Come, Buggernut with me.
No, they were much simpler, more adorable times.
Oh no, not another one of them. Have it. Yes, no, I don't. I'll have to Google that now. And I think you're right. As soon as I see it, I'll recognise it. I think.
But there was some kind of wonderful childish behaviour towards the early times in gaming. I mean, things like, say, was it Jill of the Jungle? Had sort of newspaper reports about how basically she was better than anybody else's game characters, and then other games would reciprocate. So the start of Monster Bash, which is a game from Apogee rather than Epic, had the character basically in the intro going, you know, who's causing trouble outside my window? If it's that Jungle Jill again, I'll beat her up, and that kind of stuff. And we don't really do this anymore because people sort of seem too nervous about, you know, referencing the competition or sort of jokes going bad? And
well, yes and no. I mean, for the most part, you're actually right. However, there's the developers of Ratchet and Clank, Insomniac, and the developers of the Jak and Daxter series, who are entirely separate companies, but they were big fans of each other's work.
And I will always love you.
Oh, Jesus Christ, what is that? That's a hairball or something, right?
Furball, yeah.
A furball, yeah.
No, I think the last big game that really went out for it was probably Duke Nukem 3D. You know, doing stuff like having a Lara Croft kind of hanging up in a bit of scenery, or
and the Doom guy,
that's one Doom Space Marine, and all that kind of stuff. We just don't see it anymore. I mean, the biggest one was probably what was it? It was No One Lives Forever 2, which basically had a whole level just taking the piss out of one of the Return to Castle Wolfenstein games. But it's sort of like games just seem to age too quickly for the parodies to still be relevant by the time another game comes out, which I think is more of a problem.
Well, hell, Wolfenstein's a perfect example, because Wolfenstein 3D was not the sequel to Wolfenstein. It was a game that the guy, one of the guys at id, I forget which one, probably Carmack, but it was a game that one of the guys at id grew up playing with his younger brother and loved it so much he wanted to kind of make a sequel, so just did it without permission. And luckily, the guy who had programmed the original, which still has quite a cult following apparently, he found them. He visited them at a trade show that he was going to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award at, and he loved it and gave him their blessing, which was really cool of him, because he could have said, I mean, it was, the 80s and the 90s, but he could have said, fuck you, no, that's you can't steal my stuff. But he was rather cool about the whole thing, because he appreciated that his art had inspired other art, and that's what developers used to do more often, was pay tribute to what had inspired them.
Well, for the most part, it was easier when it was a much lower money industry. Certainly things like, the first Ultima game has a bit where you go into space and you fight TIE fighters. And it's like the idea of anybody sort of doing that now. It was really only kind of Sierra that sort of started getting into actual trouble with people. Because they originally did a game called Hero's Quest. And of course, that one had to be turned into Quest for Glory. They also had Space Quest.
Death.
Yeah, they also had Space Quest, which turned out to be a trademark of a children's museum. So while they were allowed to use it, all of the games from then on basically had just sort of flag it up in the menu. This is I can't remember what the actual cover was, like the Children's Museum in Indianapolis or something like that. And then quite a few of their references got had the kibosh on them, because there was Droids Be Us in the first game, that had to change. There was Radio Shock, which had to change and became Hurt So Good. HDR.
That's actually better.
That's a much better name. But the thing is, Space Quest 4 had probably the best kind of set of parodies that's ever been done. There's a scene where you're in the future, and you're like a futuristic mall, basically. And there's a bit where you go into a software shop and they've got a bargain bin, and it's full of parodies. Some of them not quite mean-spirited, but a little bit sharp. So things like LucasArts' Boom instead of Loom, and Chuck Yeager's Egg Simulator, and Sim, the game where you can simulate any simulator you want. And of course, everyone's favourite, Where in the World is Jaime Lipschitz?
Yeah.
And it's just,
as I say, the
imagine that kind of getting past the lawyers these days.
I was going to say, the guys at Insomniac and the guys at Jak and Daxter loved each other's work. I think Ratchet and Clank came first, and Jak and Daxter, the guys that were doing that, I want to say High Moon Productions. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments below. But they took inspiration from the earlier game. So they put an image of, I think, Jack hidden somewhere in the game. Somewhere player accessible, but hidden nonetheless. And the guys at Insomniac found it, loved it. Sorry, the other way around. The guys at High Moon found it, loved it, and then reciprocated by adding a background character that was very much inspired by Ratchet and so on. And they've been doing this for years. And then eventually, because the game's kind of got a bit, not similar in a bad way, but it's clear that they were sort of inspiring one another, they ended up doing a game, a crossover, which I don't own, actually.
Oh, it sounds also like the Battletoads meets Double Dragon of our age.
But not shit.
Trouble with a game with such large enemies is I keep on losing where I am.
Yeah, I think that's one of the flaws of this. I mean, it's a fun little game, but...
Well, my controls are really laggy, so I mean... That's my excuse and I'm sticking with it, but yeah. I've got like half a second to a second lag time.
Oh, I saw something on that on the Steam forum, actually, when I was loading up the game. And apparently, if you lower your screen resolution, that fixes it right up.
I'm not doing that.
Well, yes. What, like a peasant?
Yeah,
640, 480, like some kind of peasant?
PC. If I wanted to be looking at a game from the wrong end of a pair of binoculars, I'd go and buy a SNES.
Do you not own a SNES?
I don't anymore, but they're still my favourite console.
Right.
Well,
I adore the SNES.
I've been playing a lot on my Wii U of late, which is a much underrated console. Even just for like the first parties, I'm really looking forward to Mario Maker. And so, kind of, I decided to finally take my copy of New Super Mario Brothers Wii U, whatever, out of the shrink wrap, because I never actually played it. It came with my Wii U, but I got 3D World at the same time, and so I didn't really kind of feel like it. And I don't like the 3D, 2D
I'm dead,
Mario
by the
games. I love 3D World, but I just don't like the feel of the 2D ones with the 3D models. They're just... The delay is wrong. The physics feel wrong. I don't get how anybody can kind of play them and prefer them to the SNES with its crisp sprites and just absolute precision.
I have 3D World on the 3DS. I put it in, played it for 5 minutes, and went pretty much exactly the same as you just did. Just this feels wrong.
3D World is amazing because it's like kind of full 3D and kind of it really feels good and. Just the imagination from level to level is just stunning. But going back to it, it's just, you jump and he just... I don't know, there's too much travel, when he falls. His sort of jumps are just too slow. It just feels wrong.
Do you know, I would really...
Sucking in, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I've got two. Well, I haven't got any magic, so... I think we're going to... Put one of those back in there, one of those back in there. Yeah, I'd really appreciate a high-res remake of Super Mario 64. And not because I think there's anything wrong with the original game, it's just that it's nigh on impossible to get an N64, whether via emulation or I have the actual console, looking at like anything other than shit.
Well, in fairness, that's kind of what the N64 looked like.
I mean, the worst part is, I found a CRT, like a tiny little portable jobby CRT TV in a charity shop. So I grabbed it. It was like 15 quid. So I grabbed it and then spent an afternoon hooking up my SD consoles in turn, and just sort of having a look at how much better it looked. And like the SNES looked gorgeous, and the Mega Drive looked gorgeous, and the NES and the Master System all looked amazing. And I got to play a light gun game, and that was great because it actually worked, and all of this. And then I plugged in the N64, and it looked just as appalling as it does on a high-def TV.
I just never liked the N64. It's the only Nintendo console, if we're excluding the Virtual Boy, and I think we are, which I've just really not got.
And it's got a massive following. This is the weird thing. And there were a load of games. I mean, I didn't have squillions of games on the N64.
Well, I just hate the controller as much as anything else. Like, kind of, the games are ugly, the controller is terrible.
I kind of like the controller.
I hate the controller. It feels like I'm breaking my wrist. I remember playing GoldenEye for the first time, and it was with a friend's house, and they were kind of just jumping up like, "Isn't it the best, shooter you've ever played?"
Excuse me.
Like, no, it's killing my wrists, and give me a mouse and keyboard, and I might enjoy it more. But
well, in fairness, it was one of the first console, or if not the first console-specific FPS, as opposed to a port of a PC game.
Yeah, but in other fairness, I was playing much better shooters at the time on my PC. So, it wasn't kind of the same kind of level of...
let's give GoldenEye its due. GoldenEye was a great shooter for a console.
It was fine for a console, but it wasn't anything dramatically special. I much prefer Perfect Dark. And even then, it's like the controller really got in the way, because I said just the twiddliness of it and the... But like I don't really like any of the N64 classics. I think Ocarina of Time is dreadful. I don't like Mario 64 much at all. I would like to play Majora's Mask, because I skipped that at the time. But
I don't think. I don't think that Ocarina of Time is dreadful. I think the people that like it are a bit. Yeah, I think that a lot of its die-hard fans are rather worthy. And I think it gets overhyped. I mean, it's a competent game, and it's clearly had a lot of love, time, and effort poured into it. But it doesn't fit.
Bland. It's like everything's boring.
Well, everything's muddy and depressing looking.
Wait, I wouldn't mind depressing, but it's bland. It's like, to me, Hyrule should be colourful. I don't necessarily mean full-on Wind Waker style. I don't mind the Wind Waker style, but
I adore the Wind Waker.
It was wandering around, it's like kind of this muddy field, and everything's so small and fiddly, and all of the writing is just so too long, and the whole section where you're the child just goes on and on and on. He says, playing a side-scrolling thing for an hour while jabbering.
Quite,
but
yeah.
It was just sort of playing through it. It's like I quite like Twilight Princess. When they kind of got that form, they were a bit more comfortable with it. And like I said, I love Link to the Past. I'm really looking forward to the Wii U Zelda in 2019 when it actually comes out and no one still has a Wii U. But I went back and I replayed Ocarina not that long ago, and it was just, I hate playing this.
3DS version, or?
Totally legitimate, not emulated on a PC, honest version.
So, the original N64? Or are you being sarcastic?
Well, it wasn't on original hardware, but, I bought it at the time.
But yeah, I mean, so Ocarina of Time, yeah, no thanks. In fact, do you know what? Because they've done higher def, prettier remakes of Ocarina of Time and Star Fox 64 on the 3DS. I'd argue that a 3DS version of Super Mario 64. I mean, they did release a DS port that was exactly the same thing, but with an added multiplayer mode and different characters. Fair enough. I have that kicking around somewhere and may play it, but at some point, you know me, I'm a gaming collector and a hoarder. I just see things going cheap and buy them on a whim. So but yeah, the N64 had some decent titles. Unfortunately, it wasn't a decent platform to play them on.
I'm actually really looking forward to Nintendo's next, and just hoping it, does a bit better. I mean, to be honest, Nintendo's probably the only company I would actually buy a platform, even if it was just them. I know they wouldn't be able to afford to do that, but I would basically kind of be okay with, like, kind of, we've got to have another Mario, we've got to have another Zelda, we're going to have something wacky like Splatoon, we're going to have a few of our friends kind of kicking in. I really want them to do like a remastered version of Galaxy or something like that.
Mario Galaxy?
Yeah, I never played
Well, you can download it for the Wii U now, can't you? The original.
You can download. Well, the Wii U's got backward compatibility, but I just mean
yes, it does. But I mean, you can.
But I mean, resolution it up, and make it look as nice as it would be if you hypothetically tried running it on a PC with an emulator. Have
you run any Wii games on the Wii U?
No, so I've never been bothered to get because my PC doesn't have a Bluetooth adapter.
No, on the Wii U.
You said you were playing. Oh yeah, I've done it on Wii U.
Yeah, not on Dolphin. I mean, I have run.
I just don't like it. They just look so bad on my TV that.
Oh really? Because I found the opposite. the thing is, certain games have better support than others, it has to be said. And things like higher resolution texture packs made by fans help a great deal. But I actually made a point of... I've got 2 Wii consoles now. I have one that I've left completely alone, but I've got another one that I jailbroke. And the reason I jailbroke it was I wanted to try using Dolphin. Oh, finally! I wanted to try using Dolphin, but I didn't want to be downloading ROMs when I had a pretty good GameCube collection, and I found out that as most PC drives don't read GameCube discs, the easiest way to dump your own ROMs was actually to jailbreak your your Wii rather, and use a piece of homebrew to dump them from the Wii U's drive. Let's go with more agility and a bit more strength. I am tank. So I've never actually downloaded a GameCube ROM. I've dumped them all from my own discs, but I've actually got some really good results. The only downside is if you want to run them in 16:9 or 16:10, you need to rely on hacks, which don't always work. Because the games aren't designed to be rendered like that. And even when you get the play area rendered such, the UI is usually stretched over the top or out of place. But Dolphin has improved a hell of a lot. They released... I don't know when was the last time you tried using it, because last year they released a new version. Suddenly out of the blue, there hadn't been any development for a while, and everyone was a bit narked because the last version released actually made things worse, not better. And then all of a sudden they released a new version that did everything really well, and everyone was completely shocked. Sad side note: one of the many community developers of Dolphin took her own life recently, which was sad. Read an article about it. It was really sad. Basically, just got abuse from transphobic people. It really pissed me off.
It does tend to be an annoying thing on the internet at the moment.
Oh, I don't know whether transphobia to that level has always been there, or whether the internet's just giving it more of a voice, or whether because
I think
the internet has raised the profile of non-cis-het groups, so more people are coming into contact with them.
I suspect that is more down to it, in that that weird sort of defensiveness that people get about some things. It's like, even when it's something that's actually none of their business, like this one is, it's like chances are these people would never have met a trans person, or maybe like very, very rarely in real life, but then they kind of get into their heads like, oh my god, they're everywhere, and then they kind of go into sort of full on, normality defense mode or whatever the shit.
Oh, I know. Well, just take a look at some of the comments regarding the equality news in America. From their governors. I mean, Mike Huckabee's a dickhead anyway. But
of course, nobody hearts Huckabee these days. But I thought the Supreme Court ruling was actually really on the ball. The comment said, we don't always see injustice in our lifetime. The whole point of our government system is that we can change shit. I paraphrase slightly. And I did.
That's me that needs to save you, isn't it?
It's one of those things where I've just never really gotten the problem. In that, if other people want to get married to somebody, that is none of your business.
Well, absolutely. As long as it's 2 consenting adults, who really gives a shit?
Well, my favourite thing is always when people sort of start using biblical references as a defence. It's like kind of, oh right, you want to start selective quoting? My favourite is whenever anybody brings up Leviticus.
Oh, I know.
And it's like, shall we look at the full list of things that Leviticus bans?
Oh, I do adore it when people get Leviticus tattoos.
That is my favourite. There was a guy, especially with a really huge one, where he tattooed, that bit all over his body, and just turn the page.
Oh, someone's going to hell.
And it's like even most, biblical scholars will accept...
Live, damn you!
Yeah, live.
Sorry.
I live again.
Help me.
No, but it's like... too late. But it's like, even most people kind of sort of sensibly know the Bible. Well, I admit that most of it isn't so much, moral
This is you.
things. So I'm so used to you going first on. Not so much moral things, so much as, you've got a nomadic and, people living in sort of deserts and so on. It's generally fairly good advice.
So that hurts.
But, it's sort of, the advice on, like, sort of foods and, what to eat and what not to is generally for safety reasons, not moral reasons. It's like, you don't want to do this if you live in a desert and you haven't got refrigeration yet.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, notwithstanding the fact that I'm an atheist, I don't believe, but every single bit of the Bible that you can read is that say, I just don't see Jesus having a problem with any of this shit at all.
Well, quite famously,
no.
Jesus said jack shit about homosexuality.
Exactly, not one word. But I mean, even if you kind of, even if you sort of take the absolute the most conservative reading of all of it imaginable, that you sort of say that okay, the Bible is against it. At worst, I could see him trying to talk people out of it and then saying, okay, I still love you.
Absolutely.
And that's at the absolute worst. The characters who are sort of written in the New Testament, I don't even believe would be that much of a douche. But I just don't think it would be any further than, I will have here is my say, may you find a different path, Dad be with you. Or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, well, forgiveness was kind of his thing.
Exactly. I mean, but even then, I think more than that, tolerance. I mean, he's an amazingly tolerant guy, within at least the official books of the Bible, which are the only ones which people are referring to, so the only ones I think are relevant. Obviously, if you're a biblical scholar, then, things get a bit more interesting, but certainly for the ones which people are using to kind of draw their viewpoints with a capital "the," I just don't see how you can kind of go from reading about that guy and then burning stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, isn't it funny how when people quote religious scripture like that, what they're actually saying is, look at this thing I found that confirms my own bias.
Well, they're also saying, look at this probably very poorly translated version of something, which I believe, does my bias. It's like, what the original words, like abomination, actually mean aren't necessarily, what people associate with them.
Well, yeah, quite, and it's just sad. Speaking of which, did you see EA's tweet of solidarity regarding? It was just a simple thing, that yes, okay, if you were feeling cynical, yes, PR thing, but whatever. But it felt sincere, It was just saying, great result today. Here's celebrating with. Great news for all of our employees and gamers. Not all of our employees are gamers, just our employees are gamers, because some of them, funnily enough, will be gay. And also, marriage equality is only a good thing. If I saw a joke on Reddit about this. Somebody's dad, hillbilly dad or whatever, redneck dad had said this, but actually it's fairly true, which is, he said, yeah, I'm all for gays getting married because maybe once women have had to go through the divorce proceedings, maybe we'll be changing divorce laws and blah blah blah. And it's a very sexist way of putting it, but what it basically boils down to is, yes, actually, marriage equality is one step closer to revising laws that are unbiased from one sex to the other, between sexes, unbalanced. Like, it is true that there is a bias towards women in, say, custody battles.
Well, it's what people often kind of get wrong about feminism.
Yes,
which is that no, it's actually for the benefit of both sides.
Yep.
It's just that for the most part things are unbalanced in one direction. But you fix that, you fix both. It's there's a lot of culture which is lousy for men as well, and that's not MRA bullshit. It's just a lot of the sort of the thing that sort of feminism pushes for is sort of more general kind of equality. It's a more sensible way for everybody. It's a breaking down of the generally very shitty rules which restrict both sides.
Yes.
And not even kind of withstanding the fact that a world which is kind of more equal in those respects is better for anyone by default. And of course you get all the people kind of whining and then kind of whining about the weirdest stuff. There's a whole load of stuff about her story this week, which is a really great joke. Getting all these people kind of going, "Oh, it's just for social justice warriors and feminists." Like, no, it's a game starring a woman. And it's like you morons.
Yes, well, as we all know, the original Tomb Raider was, of course, a very famous feminist piece of meat.
I will actually defend the first Tomb Raider in a lot of ways, because most of the bullshit only actually started with Tomb Raider 2.
Yeah, this is true, actually.
In fact, it's been said quite a bit that the original creator, Toby Gard, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's the story. One of the reasons he left was because he was getting sick to death of all the bullshit that was going into Lara Croft. And most notably, when he came back, to work on Legend is a brilliant game. I mean, it's not aged that great, but at the time, it was a really, really good reboot which took it seriously, and it still had some fun with fan service, like kind of sort of skimpy dresses and all of that sort of stuff. But it also treated her as a proper character, and it was really good. It was really well made, very thoughtful. Really kind of saved the character from the doldrums of her last few sequels. And you kind of sort of say feminism is like that. That's the kind of thing. Not saying you can only do it this way, but doing better helps everyone. It gives us a better world. It gives us a better story. It gives us more sensible rules. It's just common sense at this point.
Yeah, I mean. The whinging about the EA, because it was the replies to the EA thing that got me. It was hilarious. People going, "Well, I'm a lifelong FIFA supporter, but you can kiss goodbye to my games now." And right-wing MRA types go, "Well, I'm boycotting all of your games. You've lost me as a customer." It's like, oh, bless. Oh, that's time. Yeah, finishing the sentence like, oh, bless. I really don't think you understand just how many games EA publish. But by all means, go ahead
or just the relevance of that. It's like how does a company saying we believe that people should be able to marry the ones they love, how does that affect you in even the tiniest little way? I mean, they're not saying we believe that people should kill kittens. It is just you can believe that it's wrong. That's fine. I mean, you can personally hold whatever opinion you want. It's just, of all the things to kind of sort of get up and say, no, this is what offends me. It's like, you choose that hill?
Yes. Yeah. Well, anyway, that, we can't actually pause this because this is ongoing. Hang on. Can we exit to map? I think we can. Yes, we're exiting to map, so we can sort of say our goodbyes. Oh, look, levelling up for the next time.
Quickly level up for the ending, otherwise you might run out of energy.
There we go. Your turn.
Another podcast from Geek Planet Online.
So we've gone from video games that are on the tip of your tongue to whinging man-children on the internet. Well, that's a great place to start.
Do you want to quickly sort of jump in with the word cornflakes or something, just to make for an easier start?
No, I'm quite happy with that, because the beauty about whinging man-children on the internet is that by this time next week, they'll have whinged about something else, and we'll have something else to talk about. Isn't that wonderful? So, thank you very much.
Post your man-children whinging in someone else's comments.
I think we were lucky at this stage to get any kind of comments other than people complaining about our skills at Mortal Kombat.
Again, stop wishing upon the monkey paw. It always goes wrong.
Yes. So, yes, that was Tangential Recreation for another week. My thanks to Rich once again for joining me.
Thou art welcome.
And Rich also has his own rather spiffy YouTube channel. Rich, do a bit of a self-plug.
Oh, okay. Yeah, come and sort of check mine out. It's probably Richard or the Richard Perspective. Mostly videos of some retro stuff, although a couple of more recent games and some silly, random jokey videos. And hopefully, by the time you're watching this, we'll have another full-length video up, which is also with Matt, playing through a particularly awful light gun game that you probably don't remember that fondly. So come and check that out. And of course, I also run a Patreon, patreon.com/probablyricchard. So if you're a rich and eccentric billionaire, feel free to throw me a few million. And, anybody else, a couple of quid's good too.
Also, if you're an eccentric billionaire and you're watching...
I'm claiming the eccentric billionaires.
If you're willing to pay me £1 million for a night with Richard, I'm more than happy to give him up.
That's fine, we'll go to the cinema. Do you remember when it, just jumping in, do you remember when they did Indecent Proposal? There's a line where he specifically says to her something like, I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. And I always thought she should have taken that opportunity. And it's like, great! Let's go to McDonald's, we'll go and catch a film, then at midnight, that was fantastic, see you. Here's the address to send the check.
Yeah. Anywho.
Just thought about it. Even 50 Shades of Grey had a proper contract. Anyway, you were saying.
Stop that. Stop. Oh, stop that. Right. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If those last few comments haven't put you off for life. As ever, please like, comment and subscribe down below if you like what we're doing. If you'd like to help us keep doing what we're doing, we have a Patreon. Geek Planet Online, the network as a whole, has a Patreon. You can find that at geekplanetonline.com. Sorry. No, you can't. Second week in a row I've done that. You can find that at patreon.com/geekplanetonline. And you can find the details there, including a video that will explain why we need the cash and what we're going to do with it. So, and if not, no hard feelings. We really do hope you enjoy the content. And speaking of that content, we have a gaming podcast. If you're tuning in for the gaming stuff, you might like that. That's called One More Go, a bit like this whole thing. And you can find that at onemorego.geekplanetonline.com. We also have a parent site that's full of lots of lovely written content like reviews and features and lovely podcasts which we slap up every single day of the week, all of it for free and delicious and wicked and ting, and you can find that at geekplanetonline.com. I think that's about it. Oh, and of course One More Go has its own Twitter account now, which I really must start sticking in the overlay. You can find that at GPOGPM at Twitter, twitter.com/GPOGPM, because every other version of that was taken. Sorry, that's the best I can do. Right, that's enough rambling from me and enough rambling from Rich. Until next time, this is One More Go reminding you that games are for everybody, so spread the love.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.